Hello people, welcome to your lesson. We are starting on page 17 today. Okay, so let's repeat the new content. Sympathy, empathy, annoying, to annoy, annoyance, to torture, torture, to pass away, due to, youth, an immigrant, immigration, a migrant, migration, racism, race, prejudice, to approach, asylum, constructive, compassion, ethnicity. Very good, guys. Sympathy and empathy are just like Portuguese, okay? But I know that many people don't know the difference. Okay, sympathy was when you show that that you have the same, not the same feelings, but you feel sorry for the person when the person is feeling bad, okay? Empathy, on the other hand, is when you feel what the person is feeling, okay? You put yourself on their places and feel what they are feeling, okay? Annoying is the adjective, to annoy is the verb, annoyance is the noun. Guys, the verb to annoy means to make someone angry or upset sometimes, okay? To torture is the verb, torture is the noun, and it is uncountable, okay? Torture is just like Portuguese. To pass away is a synonym for to die, okay? But to pass away is more polite or sometimes even more formal than die, okay? And note that some people, native people, they use only to pass, okay, for a synonym for to die. But it is not correct, okay? The correct form is to use the full phrasal verb, which is to pass away, okay? Due to is a synonym for because of, okay? Because of, due to. Youth. Youth, guys, is the period of life when you are young, or the state of being young, okay? Immigrant and immigration are just like Portuguese. An immigrant is the person and immigration is the act. So an immigrant is a person that has come or gone to another country which is not their own countries, okay, to live in a different country than their origin country, okay? Migrant and migration, okay? A migrant is the person and migration is the act. So, a migrant is a person that travels to another place to find work. Note, not to another country, but to another place, okay? Not necessarily another country. So, migration is the act of moving, okay, to find work, but also we use migration when we talk about the animals' movement to find better conditions of living, okay? For example, birds' migration, they fly when it's winter in the northern hemisphere, they fly to the south, okay? This is the migration of birds. That also happens, for example, in the savannas of Africa, okay? During severe droughts, the animals, they migrate to other places where there is water and food, of course. Racism, just like Portuguese. Race. Guys, you have learned the word race before as a competition between people, or animals too, okay, to see who gets to the finishing line first. Okay, it could be a car race, a horse race, or even people running against one another. It's a race, okay? But here we are referring to a group of people that has similar physical characteristics, and they are considered as belonging to the same type of people, okay? So this is what we call a race. Prejudice. Guys, prejudice is an unfair or unreasonable, without reason, opinion or feeling, especially when formed without enough knowledge. Okay? So, I will repeat. An unfair and unreasonable opinion or feeling, especially when formed without enough knowledge. Okay? This is prejudice. To approach means to get closer. Asylum. Guys, asylum has two meanings, okay? Asylum can be a place or a state. So, asylum, guys, is a type of protection that one country gives to people that have been forced to leave their own countries, okay? Because of political reasons, because of a war, or because of natural disasters, okay? And an asylum, asylum is a hospital for people who have mental illnesses, okay? Constructive, just like Portuguese. Compassion, just like Portuguese. Ethnicity, similar to Portuguese. But ethnicity, guys, means that a group of people, they belong to a race, okay? And not only belong to a race, but they have similar cultural characteristics. What do we mean by cultural? Religion, language, behavior, traditions, okay? This is ethnicity, okay? So, we have a new idiom here, guys, which has everything to do with the word empathy. To put yourself in someone else's shoes, okay? It's to imagine how someone else feels in a difficult situation, okay? So, let's repeat. Prejudice and racism are problems often found in modern society. The teacher showed sympathy towards her student after he told her about his father passing away. The loud music on the subway was very annoying and made the passengers move from their seats. During 2019, more than 100,000 immigrants tried to cross the Mediterranean Sea in order to seek asylum in European countries. Due to the economic problems, Venezuela's people suffered greatly between 2013 and 2020. If a dog is especially angry or annoyed, it's better not to approach it. Youth clubs are common in France and encourage young people to spend time together constructively. Torture is a common practice in dictatorships and even in some democratic countries too. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen is the name of Rachel's favorite book. Let's practice. Okay, don't forget, guys, to pause the video and answer the questions yourselves before I do, okay? When someone passes away in your friend's family, do you send a message of sympathy to them? Yes, when someone passes away in my friend's family, I send a message of sympathy to them. Should teachers give constructive criticism to their students about their essays? Yes, teachers should give constructive criticism to their students about their essays. Are asylum seekers commonly escaping from countries that are affected by war or natural disaster? Yes, asylum seekers are commonly escaping from countries that are affected by war or natural disasters. Are there various different races around the world? Yes, there are various different races around the world. What should parents try to teach their children to prevent racism from growing in society? Parents should try to teach their children to have respect for different races and cultures worldwide to prevent racism from growing in society. Should universities try to have students with various ethnicities attending their courses? Yes, universities should try to have students with various ethnicities attending their courses. The wall between the USA and Mexico, built by the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, be considered a way of increasing the problem of prejudice and racism in society? Yes, the wall between the USA and Mexico, built by the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, could be considered a way of increasing the problem of prejudice and racism in society. What's the difference between empathy and sympathy? The difference between empathy and sympathy is that sympathy is when you share the feeling of sorrow and compassion with another person, while empathy means that you are putting yourself in someone else's shoes in order to imagine their pain or sadness. Who often uses the power of empathy in order to convey a feeling? Actors often use the power of empathy in order to convey a feeling to their audience. Would it be difficult for you to put yourself in the shoes of an illegal immigrant who was trying to enter Europe by boat? Yes, it would be difficult for me to put myself in the shoes of an illegal immigrant who was trying to enter Europe by boat. How can we define the difference between race and ethnicity? We can define the difference between race and ethnicity by saying that race is generally associated with biology and physical appearance, while ethnicity is represented by the way people express and identify themselves culturally, including race, religion, language, traditions, behavior, etc. Is torture still a common practice worldwide? Yes, torture is still a common practice worldwide. What has made migration grow in modern history? Migration has grown in modern history due to revolution in industry, technology, and transport. What activities can the youth of your city do at the weekend? The youth in my city can go to the park and ride their bicycles at the weekend. In the 80s, why was there a lot of prejudice shown towards people who had AIDS caused by the HIV virus? In the 80s, there was a lot of prejudice shown towards people who had AIDS caused by the HIV virus because it was not understood properly by the public. Is it difficult to put yourself in someone else's shoes sometimes? Yes, it's difficult to put myself in someone else's shoes sometimes. Who was annoyed that Hannah didn't try to be more understanding and put herself in her sister's shoes? Charlotte was annoyed that Hannah didn't try to be more understanding and put herself in her sister's shoes. Should employers choose a candidate because of his ethnicity or because of his qualifications and work experience? Employers should choose a candidate because of his qualifications and work experience. How could you convey compassion and sorrow to a person who has had a family member pass away? You could convey compassion and sorrow to a person who has had a family member pass away by comforting them with an embrace and saying you were sorry. As she was walking down the street, who could she see approaching her? As she was walking down the street, she could see her ex-boyfriend approaching her. How could a politician approach the idea of racism towards indigenous populations? A politician could approach the idea of racism towards indigenous populations by asking schools to teach their students about different ethnicities. Guys, note that ethnicities in this answer has an extra N, okay? The correct spelling is ETHNI and so on, okay? What did the new film of Pride and Prejudice try to do? The new film of Pride and Prejudice tried to bring a modern approach to the 18th century story. During a natural disaster, many people convey their compassion and sympathy by donating items or their time. Yes, during a natural disaster, many people convey their compassion and sympathy by donating items such as water, food, and clothing, or giving their time. What do you think are some of the reasons why a person might have prejudiced opinions? I think some of the reasons why a person might have prejudiced opinions is lack of knowledge on some topic or the lack of willing to learn more about the topic. Does modern politics worldwide include prejudiced views towards illegal immigrants? Yes, modern politics worldwide includes prejudiced views towards illegal immigrants. Is one of a charity's jobs to increase the public's feeling of compassion and empathy towards its cause? Yes, one of a charity's job is to increase the public's feeling of compassion and empathy towards its cause. What do some people do to show their annoyance towards prejudice and racism? Some people protest in public in order to show their annoyance towards prejudice and racism in society. How many races are there worldwide? According to the National Geographic Society, there are 4 main races worldwide. What type of criticism should an employer give to their employees? An employer should give constructive criticism to their employees. If your neighbor played loud music in the early hours of the morning, would you feel annoyed? Yes, if my neighbor played loud music in the early hours of the morning, I would feel annoyed. How can we convey compassion towards those seeking asylum in our country? We can convey compassion towards those seeking asylum in our country by offering them shelter and food. What should people in power always try to do? People who are in power should always try to show empathy by putting themselves in their people's shoes in order to understand the situation. Can you name the ethnic group which escaped Nazi Germany and sought asylum in countries such as Britain, the USA, and other countries in Europe during the Second World War? Yes, I can name the ethnic group which escaped Nazi Germany and sought asylum in countries such as Britain, the USA, and other countries in Europe during the Second World War. It was the Jews, or the Gypsies too, okay? Among others, of course. Okay, guys, so we are done with today's new content, okay? See you next lesson. Bye-bye.